Close your eyes. Imagine you are standing inside a jungle so thick the sunlight cannot reach the ground. The air is warm and wet. It smells of earth, of old wood, of green things growing over older things. Your feet press into soft soil. Above you, the trees stretch so high they disappear into a gray-green sky. And then, you feel it. Something hard under your foot. You look down. Stone. You brush away the soil with your hand. More stone. Cut stone. Perfectly shaped stone. You look up again. And slowly, through the trees, you begin to see it. A wall. Then another wall. Then something enormous. A pyramid. Right here, in the middle of the jungle, there is a city. An ancient city. Silent. Empty. Waiting. This is Tikal. It sits in what is now northern Guatemala. 1,000 years ago, 100,000 people lived here. 100,000 people. That is bigger than many cities in the world today. They had markets, palaces, temples, schools. They had roads connecting their city to others like it. And then, in what historians call one of the greatest mysteries of human history, it was abandoned. The people left. The jungle came back. And for almost 1,000 years, the world forgot that this place existed. My friends, this is the story of the Maya, and I promise you, it is not what you think it is. Before we talk about what the Maya lost, we need to understand what they built. Because many people have a wrong picture of the ancient Maya. When people say ancient civilization, they often imagine something simple, small villages, basic tools, people who didn't understand science, but the Maya were not simple, not even close. The Maya civilization began developing around 2000 BC, that is 4,000 years ago. They lived across what is now Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. At the height of their power, between 250 AD and 900 AD, the period historians call the Classic period. They were one of the most advanced civilizations on Earth. Think about this. The Maya built enormous stone cities without metal tools. They had no iron axes, no steel chisels. They had no wheels for transportation. They had no horses, no donkeys, no oxen to carry heavy loads. And yet they moved stones weighing tons. They built pyramids taller than a 10-story building. They created perfect right angles without modern measuring instruments. How is this even possible? We will get there. But first, you need to understand just how brilliant these people truly were. The Maya developed one of only 5 writing systems ever independently created in all of human history. Their writing, called glyphs, small carved symbols, recorded their history, their prayers, their science, and their stories. They had libraries, actual libraries, full of books made from tree bark, books that took years to write by hand, books filled with astronomical data, with medical knowledge, with religious ceremonies. And their understanding of the sky? It was extraordinary. The Maya calendar was more accurate than the European calendar that was being used at the same time. They predicted solar eclipses. A solar eclipse is when the moon passes in front of the sun, blocking its light. The Maya could calculate exactly when this would happen, centuries in advance, using only their eyes and their mathematics. Scientists today have checked their calculations. They were correct. They did all of this without computers, without telescopes, without calculators, just human intelligence, just observation, just a burning need to understand the universe. His name was Kinich Janab Pakal, and he believed he was the sun. Not a symbol of the sun, not a representative of the sun, the actual sun, born into a human body to walk among his people. In the Maya world, this was not arrogance. This was simply the nature of great kings. They were divine. They were eternal. They carried the world on their shoulders. Pakal became king of the city of Palenque, a word that means fortified place in Spanish, at the age of 12. 12 years old. His mother, a remarkable woman named Sak Kuk, ruled beside him until he was old enough to lead alone. He would go on to rule for 68 years. 68 years. That is one of the longest confirmed reigns of any king in recorded history. He died at the age of 80. Picture the young Pakal, a thin boy standing in a great stone courtyard. the hot sun of southern Mexico pressing down on his shoulders. He is wearing a headdress made of jade and feathers. Jade, the most sacred stone in the Maya world, the color of new maize, the color of life. His priests speak words he must repeat. His people watch with faces full of hope and fear. This child is now their connection to the gods. This child now carries their survival. Pakal grew up. He became a great leader. He built temples and palaces. He expanded Palenque's power. He commissioned artwork that still takes your breath away today. His sculptors carved his image in stone with a delicacy, a lightness of touch that looks almost impossible for its time. His architect's days. Ignite buildings with perfect proportions, with soaring roofs shaped like combs, with aqueducts that carried water through the city. When Pakal died in 683 AD, his people buried him deep inside a pyramid called the Temple of the Inscriptions. Inscriptions means written words carved into stone. They placed him in a stone coffin, a sarcophagus, carved with images of his journey into the underworld. They covered his face with a mask made of jade mosaic. 1,000 small pieces of jade fitted together like a puzzle, shaped into the face of a king and a god. For 1,270 years, nobody knew he was there. Then, in 1952, a Mexican archaeologist, a scientist who studies the past by digging, named Alberto Ruiz Luillier, noticed something. A stone in the floor of the temple had small holes in it, holes that looked like handles. He and his team began to dig. For 4 years they dug. And then, deep inside the pyramid, they found a hidden staircase. They went down, and at the bottom, in a chamber sealed for over 1,000 years, they found Pakal. When Ruiz Luillier stepped into that chamber, he later wrote that he felt he had gone back in time. The walls were covered with painted figures. The air smelled of centuries. And in the center, the great carved stone of Pakal's coffin, still sealed, still perfect. Can you imagine the weight of that moment? But then, something changed, and nobody saw it coming. Or perhaps some people saw it. Perhaps some people understood what was happening, but they were not listened to. And that silence, that unwillingness to face a difficult truth, would cost the Maya everything. Around 800 AD, something began to go wrong. Not in one city, not in one small corner of the Maya world. Across dozens of cities, across hundreds of thousands of square kilometers, the same dark story began to unfold. Cities that had thrived for centuries started to fall quiet. The great building projects stopped. The inscription dates on stone monuments, those careful, precise calendrical records the Maya kept, just stopped. No new dates, no new carvings, no new kings proclaiming their eternal glory. Then people started to leave, not all at once, slowly at first. A family here, a neighborhood there, and then faster and faster until great cities were empty. Historians call this the Terminal Classic Collapse. Terminal means final. It was the end of the classic Maya civilization, and within 100 years, cities that had held hundreds of thousands of people were quiet. The jungle crept back. Vines grew over the stone faces of kings. Trees pushed through palace floors. The birds returned. The animals returned. The silence returned. Imagine you are a young Maya farmer. Your name is Ajah. The year is approximately 850 AD. You are standing in your maize field, your cornfield, and the stalks are thin. They should be tall and green and heavy with grain by now. But they are thin. The rains that should have come in May came late. The rains that should have come in June barely came at all. You look at the sky every morning and you pray. You bring offerings to the rain, God Shak, the god with the long nose and the lightning axe. You do everything right. But the rains don't come, and your children are hungry. You go to the city. You wait in line to see the priests. They tell you that you must give more offerings. You give more. It doesn't rain. You hear that in the city of Karakol, 2 days walk away, the same thing is happening. You hear rumors of war. The kings are fighting each other for the remaining good land, the remaining sources of fresh water. You hear that somewhere to the north, a great city has already been abandoned. You don't want to believe it, but your children are still hungry. For centuries, historians asked one question: how does a civilization of millions simply disappear? For a long time, the answers were vague. Mystery, invasion, disease, theories, ideas without full proof came and went. But in the last 30 years, modern science has given us something extraordinary. It has given us answers. Scientists drilling into the bottom of lakes in Guatemala and Belize found something remarkable in the sediment, the layers of earth and material that sink to the bottom over thousands of years. These layers are like pages in a book. Each layer tells the story of a different century, and what the scientists found in the layers from 800 to 1000 AD was unmistakable. Drought. Severe, prolonged, devastating drought. For over a century, the rains that the Maya depended on for their agriculture, their farming, largely failed. This is not theory. This is chemistry. This is science reading the past like a text message. But drought alone does not explain everything, because the Maya had survived droughts before. What made this one different? Here is where the story becomes uncomfortable. Here is where the mirror starts to reflect something we recognize. The Maya had been cutting down their forests for centuries. They needed wood for fuel, for cooking, for burning limestone to make the plaster that covered their buildings. Buildings that required enormous amounts of material. They needed land for farming to feed growing populations. And slowly, generation by generation, the great forests of the Maya world were reduced. Deforestation, the removal of trees, changes the climate of an area. Trees hold water in the soil. Trees bring rain. Without trees, the land becomes drier. The rains become less reliable. The Maya, in building their magnificent civilization, had quietly, slowly, unknowingly changed their own weather. And when the natural drought came on top of the deforestation, on top of the wars between city-states fighting over scarce resources, on top of political instability, with kings claiming divine power while their people starved, the system cracked. Then it broke. The collapse was not one catastrophe. A catastrophe is a sudden, terrible disaster. The Maya collapse was something slower and in many ways sadder. It was a series of smaller failures that became one great, irreversible ending. Here is what the history books often forget to tell you. The Maya did not disappear. The civilization of the classic period collapsed. The great cities were abandoned. But the people? The people kept living. They moved. They adapted. They changed to survive. They found new places, new ways, new rhythms. Today, there are approximately 7 million Maya people living across Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. 7 million. They speak 30 different Maya languages. Not dialects, not variations, but 30 distinct languages that developed over thousands of years. Languages like Yucatec Maya, Tzotzil, Tzeltal, Quechua. Each one is a living library. Each one contains knowledge, stories, ways of seeing the world that exist nowhere else. Meet Ixchel. Not her real name, but a name chosen for this story. The name of the Maya goddess of the moon and medicine. She is a young woman living in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. She is 26 years old. She works as a teacher. On weekends, she takes groups of tourists through the ruins of Uxmal, one of the great Maya cities, still standing, still proud, its stone facades carved with hundreds of rain god masks all staring out at the same sky they have always faced. Ixchel speaks Yucatec Maya. She learned it from her grandmother, the way her grandmother learned it from her grandmother, in an unbroken chain of voices going back 1,000 years and more. And when she stands in Uxmal and explains the significance of each stone, each symbol, each carefully oriented building, the Maya built their structures to align with the movements of the sun and stars. She is not reading from a history book. She is reading from something in her blood, something in her breath, something that survived. When you look at a photograph of Tikal today, those pyramids pushing through the green, what do you see? Some people see a ruin. They see failure. They see a warning. And it is true. There is a warning here. When a civilization strips its forests, destabilizes its climate, allows inequality to grow so large that the majority suffer while the elite, the wealthy and powerful few, build monuments to their own glory, things can fall apart. History is clear on this. But there is something else here too. The Maya civilization lasted for more than 3,000 years. 3,000 years. For context, the United States of America is less than 250 years old. The Roman Empire, at its height, lasted for about 500 years. The Maya, their art, their mathematics, their astronomy, their language, their spirit, endured for 3 millennia, and their people are here today. The jungle of Tikal is both a grave and a cradle. A grave for what was lost, a cradle for what survived. And perhaps that is the deepest truth this ancient story holds for us. Civilizations are not buildings. Buildings fall. Civilizations are people, and people, resilient, adaptable, creative, stubborn, beautiful people, find ways to continue. Resilient means strong enough to survive difficulty and keep going. The Maya are resilient. They always have been. Think about the word we use today, resilient. Because when you face a difficulty in your own life, when your plans collapse, when your circumstances change, when the rain doesn't come the way you hoped it would, the Maya are proof that collapse is not the end of the story. It is simply the end of one chapter. When you next feel the sun on your face, that same sun that Pakal believed lived inside him, think of the astronomer priests of Tikal climbing their pyramids before dawn to watch the sky. Think of Ajah, the young farmer, scanning the horizon for rain clouds. Think of Ishel, her voice moving through stone corridors older than any living memory. Think of the jade mask, patient in the darkness for 13 centuries, waiting to be found. We are all, in some way, standing in the jungle. There is always something ancient beneath our feet, and there is always something worth building, even now, even here. My friends, may your curiosity never grow quiet. May your world always hold a pyramid you have not yet discovered, and may the rain, when you need it most, always find its way to you.